Hello again, everybody. I'm Paul the Nitro Scourers here. Welcome to this edition of Nitro Memories. Thanks so much for joining us. Today, we're going back to September 1988. So, without any further ado, let's begin. Excuse me there. And we begin with the NWA, the shocking tag title change that no one saw coming. Excuse me. It happened in Philadelphia on September 10th when the Midnight Express, the United States Tag Team Champions, defeated Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson of the Horsemen to win the NWA World Tag Team titles. And the loss was so bad that Tully and Arn left for the World Wrestling Federation. I guess Tully and Arn were getting sick and tired of Jim Crockett Promotions and Dusty Rhodes booking and said, look, but the Midnight Express, you're going to win the titles tonight in Philly. Like I said, this is totally out of left field. Tully and Arn made it crystal clear they were going to leave for the World Wrestling Federation as the Brainbusters, managed by Bobby Heenan. This was huge because this would break up half of the nucleus that is the Four Horsemen. And it was a pretty exciting match from what I could tell. I saw a little bit of the handheld camera of that. A double pin where I guess Eaton pinned Tully Blanchard while Arn Anderson beat Sweet Stan Lane, but the referee ruled that Eaton was the legal man, new tag team champions, and so the Midnight Express, at least for the time being, were double champions, the NWA World Tag Team Champions and the United States Tag Team Champions. Like I said, though, that would not last long. Jim Crockett comes out there. The NWA states that a team cannot hold two titles at the same time. Gee, more about you, Crockett, later. So the Midnight Express had to give up the U.S. Tag Team titles, of course, to be the World Tag Team Champions. And this was a peak moment for the Midnight Express. They were on top. But something was brewing the very next month that would cost the Midnight Express that top perch. More on that in the next episode. But that was a huge title change, and everyone's talking about it. The Midnight Express proving they are now the best team in professional wrestling. Next up, the Nature Boy Ric Flair defending his title not only against Lex Luger now, but Rick Steiner as well. Rick left the Varsity Club. He's on his own, and he's getting a huge pop. He nearly beat Ric Flair. He took Flair to about 30 minutes in his title matches against Ric Flair starting at that time. And, of course, the total package. I was ripped off at the Great American Bash. Well, Luger would get more opportunities, including the one at Starrcade 88 for the World's Heavyweight title. Those two feuds were brewing. And don't forget, Sting was a part of that equation as well. So Ric Flair was quite busy in the month of September. Now also reeling off the fact that Tully and Arn, half of the nucleus of the Four Horsemen's gone. They went to the World Wrestling Federation. And there was a story at one point where Ric Flair was going to go to Summerslam 88 and leave Jim Crockett Promotions. I think that was around July, late July. But Rick reconsidered and signed with Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA. More about that upcoming. Now, another major thing that was happening in the NWA, there were signs that the Road Warriors were going to turn bad. They were getting sick and tired of being thought of afterthoughts, so to speak. These are the Road Warriors. You don't consider them afterthoughts, trust me. They got through their war with the Powers of Pain, drove them out of there, but now they feel a little bit slighted. Even though they were the NWA six-man tag team champions, they were far away from becoming contenders for the World Tag Team titles. So drastic times call for drastic measures. And you could tell the signs that the Road Warriors are going to turn bad. And boy, did they ever turn bad the very next month. More on that on the next episode. And finally, like I said previously, the momentum was keeping going on this impending sale to Ted Turner. Excuse me. To Ted Turner and World Championship Wrestling. It is there. I guess Jim Crockett was going bankrupt. All that spending came back to haunt you. And of course, Dusty Rhodes' booking did not help any. So basically, Dusty Rhodes' booking was running out of steam. They were running out of money. They made bad investments. They didn't use the UWF properly when they bought it the previous year. So it looks like they're going to sell it. Oh, we're not going to sell it. You're going to sell it. It's going to be about 2 more months before they sell it to Ted Turner and World Championship Wrestling. And that will be on a future episode. And that is what's going on with the NWA in September of 1988. Moving on to the World Wrestling Federation, the fallout from SummerSlam 88 was huge. Randy Savage now is defending the World Wrestling Federation title against the 8th Wonder of the World, Andre the Giant, as well as return bouts once again with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And there was a match, I believe, in late September at Madison Square Garden where Andre the Giant grabbed Elizabeth by the ankle and really wrenched on it, really hurt her ankle. Boy, I'll tell you what, that crowd was ready to riot over that. Andre was getting booed everywhere. I mean everywhere in his war with the Macho Man Randy Savage. The matches were a little slow, a little plodding, but the end result was Andre getting booed and Andre saying, "I'm the new world champion." He even grabbed the referee in Madison Square Garden and says, "You announced me as the new world champion. I am the new world champion." Even though Savage got counted out of the ring. But Andre, once he yells at you, you better do what Andre tells you. Excuse me. And of course, Andre was back under the auspice of Bobby the Brain Heenan. Speaking of Mr. Heenan, Hulk Hogan would get back into the feud with the Heenan family, most specifically the king of the World Wrestling Federation, Haku. And Hogan was starting to wear the war bonnet with the fist, a big plastic fist, hard plastic by the way, to the ring, and it looked absolutely stupid. "I'm going to wear the war bonnet, brother. Look at the fist, brother. You're going down, brother." That really intimidates me, Hulk. Oh my God, the war bonnet. Give me a break with that thing. Anyway, Hogan was feuding with Haku. He was still having some matches with Andre the Giant. He was feuding with any member of the Heenan family. Bobby Heenan usually got involved and got knocked on his rear end at the hands of Hogan. But a certain prison guard who was coming up in the rankings from Cobb County, Georgia, was making waves, making a lot of statements. And he's going to do his proverbial quote-unquote arrest warrant for Hulk Hogan the very next month. More on that on the next episode. Another major fallout from SummerSlam 88, of course, was the Ultimate Warrior. Yes, shaking the ropes. He's the Intercontinental Champion, the Warrior. Oh, God, everyone loved the Warrior as he continued having rematches with the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title. Usually the Warrior would win by disqualification because Jimmy Hart interfered in the matchup. And you notice Jimmy Hart falling from grace as far as being the manager of champions. More about that in just a moment. But nonetheless, the Ultimate Warrior was the Intercontinental Champion. Everyone was up in arms. Warrior! Power of the Warrior! The Intercontinental Champion, shaking the ropes, acting like an idiot, acting like a big goof, running around the ring. But yes, he defeated the Honky Tonk Man, although by disqualification, and thus began his successful first month as the Intercontinental Champion. And finally, let's talk about Jimmy Hart. Gee, Jimmy, you're falling from grace. The Hart Foundation dunked your butt like a bad habit. Back on that first weekend, I think it was Labor Day weekend, you were fired, Jimmy Hart. You were fired because you took 20% of the Hart Foundation's money and gave it to the fabulous Rougeau brothers, who are now your top team. Gee, it came back to haunt you big time, didn't it, Jimmy Hart? You little pipsqueak. But nonetheless, the Hart Foundation now on their own as a team and are looking to find their way back to the World's Tag Team titles. But that would take almost a year and a half for them to do that. But now the Hart Foundation took that initial first step and got rid of that little pipsqueak, Jimmy Hart. And that is, in essence, the World Wrestling Federation in 1988. And before we go, let's talk about what's going to be happening on Nitro Memories coming up for the rest of the year. Next month, we're going to be doing October of 1988, where Hulk Hogan was still feuding with the Heenan family, and now the beginnings of his feud with the Big Boss Man. Randy Savage was still feuding with Andre the Giant, but here comes some bad news for Macho Man. The Ultimate Warrior was now moving on to other challengers besides the Honky Tonk Man. Meanwhile, in the NWA, the Road Warriors turned bad, and I mean bad. That was a huge thing that happened in October of 88, as well as the impending sale was gaining even more momentum and maybe becoming a reality. That's going to be next month. I believe that date's going to be November 18th. That video will be released. And in December, as I mentioned on my other video from the Mind of the Nitro, which is currently out now, we're going to combine Nitro Memories and From the Mind of the Nitro into one episode as we'll look back at an issue of a retro magazine. What it was like to read that magazine back in the day. This was back in the 1980s. I won't reveal the magazine now. I'll reveal it when that video comes out, and that's going to be on December 16th. So that is going to do it for this edition of wrong show. That's going to do it for this edition of Nitro Memories. Glad you enjoyed the show. Until next time, I am Paul the Nitro Scovers here saying, so long, everybody.